Alright, so I want to talk about a few things that have been going on with the Long Island Railroad the past couple of days. Some problems going on, mainly what happened yesterday due to President Trump visiting in Bethpage, which caused a big mess on the Ronkonkoma branch because President Trump selfishly decided to disrupt the Long Island Railroad. He didn't have to do that, but he decided to screw over the people on the main line on the Ronkonkoma branch. No surprise, because Mr. Trump is probably somebody who is very well liked among the pretty little Babylon branch. The stockbrokers there probably love him. But anyway, let's take a look and see what's going on with, by the way, been a lot of M3s lately. Actually, the other night, last night, actually 2 M3s here coming through. The 823 train there, one coming through there, and the 826 train at Hicksville westbound are both M3s. I'm seeing a lot of M3s on the main line. But these are the final days. Whether you like them or not, these are the final days of the M3s. So if you do want to get your rides in, I would suggest you do it now. Anyway, let's get to the what's been going on with railroad. Okay, so we're going to go over some of the delays now on the trains that have been an issue. Now, yesterday, Long Island Railroad did not have a good day because there was unfortunately, a fatality by somebody being struck by a train west of Kew Gardens. But fortunately, service was never suspended. They kept service running, but the trains had a bypass. The westbound trains had a bypass Kew Gardens, Forest Hills, and Woodside because of that. So the service was running there. They were also New York City Transit was cross-honoring, and the railroad did the best job they could do. And they kept people informed. They really did keep people posted about this, and they kept service running, which was good. Normally they don't do that, but next time that happens at Queens Village, because Nowakowski, he suspended the service when that happened at Queens Village, but Nowakowski isn't in charge anymore. So yeah, so that's some good news. I guess that at least they were handling it better. It's still tragic though. Here's something though that was completely avoidable, and I'm going to actually talk about this. The Presidential Motorcade yesterday, because Trump was in Bethpage, wound up screwing up the main line. And Matt did a video about this, and I didn't get a chance to do one yesterday, so I'm doing it now. The 214 from Pendu and Ronkonkoma was delayed, and then they delayed it, and then they wound up canceling it. As you can see, they canceled it, and they kicked everybody off the train to allow so this caused a lot of problems. And there was no reason for the Presidential Motorcade to cross over the Long Island Railroad tracks when it could have, and I'm going to talk about where they had it and how it could have been avoided, but the President, Trump, he wanted to screw the main line, I guess. No surprise, probably a lot of people on the pretty little Babylon branch are Trump fans. But you can see what happened here. It got delayed, and we can look at some of the comments here. It was delayed, and then it was canceled. Now, this is like a train that carries a lot of people, 214 from Pendu and Ronkonkoma. So you can imagine you can imagine here what's going on. So they just kicked us off the train. Any ideas about how to get home? No, you'll have to wait and try to squeeze on the next train, which isn't until an hour later. And like I said, they did not need the police or the Presidential Motorcade did not give the railroad advance notice. They didn't know this was going to happen, so I don't blame the railroad for this. The Patchogue train was. Do you honestly think all of these people will fit on that 350 train? No, they won't. No, they won't. And they should have had a passenger extra there. Once the Presidential Motorcade passed, they should have had a passenger extra. If they had to pull it off the Babylon branch, then they should have pulled it off the Babylon branch. But again, this was very last minute, so I really can't blame the Long Island Railroad as much as I blame President Trump for this mess. And it was completely avoidable because he was in Bethpage, and he was going between Bethpage and New York City. So instead of going via Central Avenue and 107 to the Route 135 and then to the expressway, he decided to take South Oyster Bay Road and screw up the railroad because he's just being selfish. All right, so it screwed up even the train on the Montauk branch. It screwed up some Ronkonkoma trains. It screwed up a bunch of stuff. All right, it screwed up a bunch of stuff, and even the whole main line got screwed up due to it. And then there was a signal problem in New Hyde Park. Oh, there was also signal problems in Deer Park too, by the way. These are the problems that Mr. Ring is talking about addressing, because these are consistent problem spots. All right, that's going on. So, there's some delays. There's some delays due to track work. I'm going to go through here. Go through what happened today, because there was a switch problem causing some delays in a switch problem east of Mineola. Very brief switch problem, but again, it was hot, and it seems to be when these problems happen. And this is what Mr. Ring is talking about. So it says right here, the Long Island Railroad's non-stop express train to the Hampton operates today. And this is a consistent issue a lot of people have been talking about online. The luggage taking up seats. These snobby people from the city come in and put their luggage on seats and take up space on the train. And personally, I think that there should be charges for oversized luggage. All right, that's what I think. They're only going out for the weekend, but they pack like, this is why I call them idiots, because of the way they act. These are uppity people from Park Slope and rich areas of the city. They're going out east, and because of their status, they think they don't have to, abide by the rules. So you can see they have another one here. Long Island Railroad ask customers on all eastbound Montauk trains to leave oversized luggage home. So the railroad knows, and I'm glad that they're recognizing this is becoming a problem. And I honestly think that they should start charging for luggage, oversized luggage. If you can't put it on your lap, if it's too big to put on your lap, then you should have to pay. All right, that's my own opinion, because it's not fair to everybody else who needs to sit down. All right, so let's see the comments on this. This means another summer being ignored. Weekend warrior. Yep, that's right. It's a big problem. It really is a big problem. It's only getting worse. These people voted for de Blasio, and they need to sit in the mess that they made instead of coming out here and getting in our hair. They voted for him in the city. They overwhelmingly voted for him, so let them sit in the mess they made. All right, we shouldn't have to deal with you. All right. Just looking at these comments here, but I'm glad they made that comment. I don't know why people are upset about it. All right. And then there was an unauthorized person on the tracks near the station at St.Albans. Now, something very funny happened at St.Albans. So I don't know if this train was involved with that. The 8:53 train from Jamaica due in Montauk wound up getting delayed due to an equipment problem. And what happened here, from what I understand, is that you're not doing good with the heat. The locomotive shut down. And this is a constant problem with those the locomotives that we have at the railroad. They shut down. And the computer shut down the locomotive, and there should be a way to override that shutdown feature on the locomotives. The railroad should have figured that out. They always do this, especially when the weather gets hot, because they're overheating. I don't know if they're overheating or the computer thinks it's overheating, but the railroad, it's dangerous to have the train get stuck and stall out like that on the tracks. That's not acceptable. And that computer that shuts down a locomotive needs to be disabled so the locomotive can keep going, all right, instead of shutting down. That should not be happening. All right, locomotives should never shut down. All right, it's not like a bus. All right, still stuck. No AC or air circulation yet, because the locomotive shut down on them. It stalled out. No AC. Dangerous situation. So a lot of people. Again, there are a lot of problems that Mr. Ring has inherited. But this diesel fleet has been a problem ever since it was ordered. It's a lemon diesel. Well, it's the locomotive. I like the C3s, but the locomotives are complete shit. The 853 from Jamaica due in Montauk, they're shit because their EMD is proven, but these were custom designed, and they have a special computer on them that loves to shut down the locomotive for no reason. And the railroad, Mr. Ring, needs to figure out how to disable that shutdown feature so this doesn't happen anymore. All right. So now it's 90 minutes, so they did receive substitute equipment at St.Albans. So, yeah, that caused a bit of a mess for the Babylon branch, actually. For our change, because the Babylon branch trains had to use the Atlantic line, I guess, because they couldn't make it with that disabled train there. So that's what's been going on the Long Island Railroad. All right, so I want to talk a little bit more about the president. The president's visit yesterday and how it screwed up everything on yesterday being May 23rd. He screwed up the entire railroad, because what happened was, for whatever reason, Whatever Matt suggested, they go through Hicksville. No, I don't think that would have been a good idea because this is a very, as you saw with all the traffic today. But they had this event right over here in this area where the president was. All right, and Trump decided to screw the main line up by having the Presidential Motorcade go right up South Oyster Bay Road and crossing the main line right here. And because of that, the train service had to be shut down for a time on the main line, on the Ronkonkoma Line, and this caused a lot of problems. This also affected the Patchogue train that goes and takes the main line that stops at Mineola. All right, so he was very selfish to do that and to go right up South Oyster. The police department also is to blame. Nassau County Police, they never should have allowed that. All right, and he proceeded to take South Oyster Bay Road up to the expressway back into the city or the parkway, whatever. But what he should have done was taken South Oyster Bay Road. It would have been a little out of the way, but so be it. South Broadway here, Central Avenue, and then pick up the Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway. This way, it doesn't affect the Long Island Railroad at all. All right, and this way the railroad wouldn't have been affected. He would have taken the expressway, and everything would have been fine. But instead, he had to screw everybody up because he's Mr. Trump and he feels he can do whatever he wants because he's the president, you know. And I don't think that's fair to the people on the railroad who got screwed by that, who probably had to wait maybe a couple of trains so they could fit back on. And they didn't give the railroad fair notice. I don't think that just because he's the president, he should be allowed to screw people's commute up. I don't think so. So yes, I know Trump's forum was about MS-13 and stuff, but you know, he talks about it, but the fact is, at least from a perspective here on Long Island, it doesn't seem like there's an improvement in the communities that are suffering with it. Places like Westbury, still full of gangs, still full of illegals, a lot of empty promises, basically. And for the people who are stuck living in crap holes like that, I mean, I'm glad Trump's talking about it, but we need more action, and we need to get these gangbangers out of our country. All right. And the second point I want to make is that I know tourism is important for Long Island, but just because you're from the city, just because you have money, doesn't give you the right to come here and clog up the trains with your luggage. Treat our island like a set. You know, I've seen how rude these people are, so many of them, and you know it just doesn't give you the right, and that's why people are going to call you idiots. That's why people are going to call you bennies. That's why people are going to call you shoebies, because of the way you act. Have a little respect, all right? A little respect is all we ask, all right? Don't be rude to the people on Long Island who were here first. Anyway, the last thing I want to bring up in this update, although it has nothing to do with the Long Island Railroad, it sort of does, because Phil Ang was actually at Steve Bellone. He gave the Suffolk County State of the County address today, which I watched on News 12. Yeah, News 12 actually covered some local news for once. They covered the whole thing, and I watched it. And while I'm not thrilled with some of the things Suffolk County has done, Suffolk County has shown a much better commitment toward improving public transportation than Nassau has. And I liked a lot of the things Steve Bellone talked about in his speech. He strikes me as somebody who's looking out a little more for your average person, whereas Laura Curran just seems like one of those snobby people. All right, you know, he's talked about, I know this was brought up when I put up my traffic video a while ago. He's talked about the bus lanes on various roads in Suffolk County. We haven't heard any talk of that in Nassau County. All right, that's number one. Number two, while Suffolk did have to wind up cutting some service, it was because of insufficient support from the state. And if had the state supported that bus service, it would not have been cut. Suffolk County has kept much more of its bus service than Nassau has over the years. Even though Suffolk doesn't have as much bus service, they've kept more of their bus service. And you got to remember also, under Steve Bellone, the county did wind up expanding Sunday service. So that's another thing. So I think he's looking to allow a little more, maybe even a lot more, for public transportation and for the environment than Laura Curran. They're both Democrats, but it just seems like Suffolk County is always a little more open-minded and forward-thinking and looking out for the average Joe, whereas Nassau seems to be all about the snobs. It doesn't matter which party is in charge. It just always seems that way. So I like what Steve Bellone had to say. He spoke about the environment. He spoke about the importance of these smart growth projects. He spoke about also thanking our veterans. Spent a good amount of time with that, especially thanking those who have lost from the 108th in West Hampton. spending a lot of time on that, honoring those who've been lost in that horrible accident involving a crew from the 108th in West Hampton. So I think Steve Bellone is doing a much better job than Laura Curran, and I think it was a pretty decent state of the county. I was glad to see Philip Bang there. They talked a lot about improving the Ronkonkoma Line, not only the double track it, but overhauling the stations and making them more, more friendly for people who aren't driving. So Suffolk County is definitely doing a lot more, I think, for people. They're trying to reduce the traffic a lot more, trying to get people on public transit. They're trying a lot more than Nassau is right now. All right, and when we take a look at the service, Nassau has cut a lot more of its bus service than Suffolk has, a lot more. I would say under Nice, Nassau may have lost a third of its bus service, while Suffolk has kept, I think the cuts that Suffolk made probably were like a sixth, maybe not even a sixth, probably a tenth of the service they provide, so they're much smaller, and Suffolk has done a much better job. So this picture here, taken into Pine Barrens. Of course, these buses aren't in service anymore. They were my favorite, the Orion 5s. That's the S66 there, going on County Route 51 there, south of Riverhead. But I'm also, another thing that Suffolk is doing also is they're providing campsites for people going to the U.S. Open. That's right, campsites. So this is a good opportunity for people around the country and around the world to learn about the Pine Barrens right here on Long Island. So I think it's excellent. I think it is excellent. So while I'm not in love with everything Suffolk does, especially the bag tax that they have over there, you have to also remember Steve Bellone didn't actually support the bag tax. That was from the legislature. He never actually signed the bill. The legislature passed it, and because he didn't sign it, they could still become law, basically. It's the way the Suffolk County Charter works. But anyway, I think if you didn't watch it, you can try to, I don't know where a link is to watch it, but I think it was, I think he does a much better job than Laura Curran. That's all I'm saying. I'm not a huge fan of him, but I think he does a much better job than Laura Curran. Anyway, that's it for this video, that season has started, folks, but hopefully we'll start to see, again, some improvement here on the Long Island Railroad now that we have new management in charge. And I think I've spoken for long enough. So take care. Thank you for watching.